Welcome everybody to this episode of Strong Perspective Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Keith Armstrong, along with
Uncle Spoke.
we welcome you tonight to this episode. Our third host, our third partner in crime. He is he has a another engagement. So, Damon, we'll see you next week, brother. You have a good Friday,
Yep.
and we're gonna go ahead. This is Strong Perspective Podcast. This is more of a everything type of show, every kind of communication show. We like our sports, we like our social commentary, we like to laugh, we like to do all these different things that, if you are a constant viewer of it on YouTube, you'll see that's what we do. You know, um, Speaking of YouTube, please go like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The name is Strong Perspective Podcast. We hope that you guys, build our numbers up so we can be famous. But no, just the fact that at least go like our content. Build those numbers up. And look, nobody's asking you to watch because we usually average about an hour and a half. Even though you would get a lot out of that hour and a half, I know y'all you guys' attention span is not all that because we got shorts, YouTube shorts, we got Instagram, we got all these different things, and the three of us, we ain't got I was getting ready to pick on the women. We ain't got the thongs on and the pretty faces and shit. We can sit up there and flex our muscle and be on that. What up? We can be on that type of deal. But like I said, what we do is we promote conversation. You know, I wish folks. I encourage people if we're not your cup of tea, the one thing I want you to take from us is to communicate with the people in your life. Talk. You know, Try not to take what you hear personally. Try not to be caught up in that, but talk because a simple conversation would head off something that might be detrimental to whatever relationship you have. Because it helps. Through conversation, it helps you to build boundaries. Through conversations, you know if that person is elated, that person is irritated, or that person is furious about who you are and what you've done. But also, last thing I'm gonna say is sometimes you think you are the protagonist in your story, but you're actually the villain. But your look at your character and your personality won't allow you to see that you might be the villain. Me personally, I'm part-time villain, part-time antagonist, majority of the time protagonist because I put thought into it. It's not because God blessed me with a wonderful personality, even though I have one. Warming, I can't claim that. But the thing about it is what I taught myself how to do, and it's through our parents. We reference our parents a lot, but what I try to do is open up communication. I like to open up communication so you'll understand where I'm coming from. With that being said, Uncle Spoke, how was your day today, sir?
It was a day, didn't kill nothing, didn't let nothing die. Nah, it was cool, man. Regular work week. No, overwhelmingly interesting or interesting events occurred.
Okay.
Everything's cool. But I
Cool.
mean, just piggybacking off of what you said, man. Rarely can you find an example, in the entertainment world, cartoons, comic books, movies or whatever. Rarely do you find an example of a villain man who villains for the sake of villainy. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks they're the hero. Everybody thinks they have a vital statement to make. That's why people really don't talk anymore. It's especially in live conversations. It's become a competition, man, to see who can be the cleverest motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Who can make the viral moment or whatever. And viral moments, man. It's so hard to create those things. They gotta happen. They gotta happen. Naturally, spontaneously or whatever. So I mean, a lot of stuff we see, on this platform becomes, contrived and bastardized, man, because people have taken it like a piece of taffy, taking a moment, probably more than likely a poignant moment to somebody, and taking it like a piece of taffy and stretched it and reformed it so many times and then filmed it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if they just, let it happen naturally, it'd probably be a lot more entertaining and it would probably mean something. But people want to be actors.
Yeah.
People want to be actors, man. And I get, when I'm at work or whatever, or whoever might tell whatever I might be speaking to, and I tell them, that's what I wanted to do, and they always want to say, well, what made you want to do that? Well, the same thing that makes you do TikToks with your wife, bro.
Yeah.
The same thing. You doing the same thing that that I want to do. So whether people admit it or not, it's all in pursuit of some level of fame.
Of course. I think a big part of it also is it became commercialized to have viral moments.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, you want people to know who you are and all this, but then once YouTube became stronger because it was paying for viral moments, and the advertisers went to YouTube and Instagram and all these different places, right?
mm,
And the only thing you had to do was to have a large following, and you may not even want that attention, but it became commercialized. Like, yo, man, if so, this is all I have to do. Find something to put in front of my phone, in front of my camera.
mm,
You know, it's funny how I think it got to that point because people put the dash cams on their personal vehicles now. You know, they do that for a reason. Of course, it's like, you want to be, and on the motorcycles too. You want to be. It helps you out in a small sense. It helps you out, if, car accidents or whatever, right? But your car, the recording that you're making at that time, it's not benefiting you while you're driving. It's
mm,
coming later. So I think part of it is looking for viral moments because uh, I've seen people record car crashes. I've seen people record plane crashes, crashes, fights, like World Star Hip
mm,
Hop, right? They became a monster because they posted fights on there, and people in the community was posting fights on there, and they were telling people, "Yo, we'll give you a little bit of money." I don't even know if it was a lot of money they was giving these folks. You know
mm.
what I'm saying?
Don't
But
matter. Didn't
but
matter.
it blew up. It blew up. You know?
Yeah. America's funniest home videos. As funny as some of those videos
I
were,
think I think yeah, you're right.
yeah, I believe they only paid them $50. 50,
Hmm.
but then they had to start sending, saying that, putting out the disclaimer. Don't do anything. Don't, because you'll get hurt and you'll die.
Yeah, you,
Basically,
you can you can get hurt. Yeah, you're
and
right.
but I mean, dash cams, doorbell cameras, freaking stuff like that, man. It's just like enabled the entire world to be rubberneckers. That's all
Yeah,
it, that's all it's done. You know, we
that's a good
thrive.
point.
We're only species, man, that really like thrives off of our, fellow human beings misery and shit.
Yeah,
We enjoy seeing that shit. We love the train wreck.
you know, I don't know. You know what's so crazy about it? The fights is one thing because people, and I'm not talking about the overmatched fights. I'm talking about men and women, even in a match, and they throwing blows.
Hmm.
That's sort of like boxing to me, right? But the ganging up on somebody, you know, the bigger 6'4" dude on top of the the 5'7", 150 timid guy,
Hmm.
which was a lot. You know what I'm saying? And it bothered me. Like a friend of mine sent me a video today, and it's always been this way. But uh, was it on Instagram? One of these, you know, and I'm not trying to downgrade it. It was one of these. I don't think it was Instagram. So sorry about that, Instagram. I think it was on one of these the video apps where this man ran over his wife's boyfriend with a 4x4 truck.
Yeah.
And in this video, they showed this man run this guy over 4 times.
Yeah. How did how did it how did they air that anywhere, man?
And I said, I never went back to check what it was, but yeah, but
That's
I guess once it's entered in evidence,
Mhm.
you know, once the person is convicted, they have the right to sell the video. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
But the fact that you're going to see, and it's like I said, people like to see train wrecks. I don't think they take pleasure off of it, but they can't look away. You know that running joke. I can't look away. I can't look away.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, I see myself like had I not worked the job that I worked for 30 years, I could see myself getting caught up in the morbid curiosity unintentionally because I think a lot of these people do it unintentionally. Oh man, that is crazy. That is sad. But you know, the people who actually recording it, it takes me out.
Mhm.
When you see somebody in distress, right? See a man, and I've seen many of these videos. Man, this domestic violence beating the living hell out of a woman.
Mhm.
But the person who's there is recording it and not saying a word. Yeah, you record it for for evidence, but also you're on the scene. Now you people don't want to die.
Mhm.
So I've taken in consideration someone not doing it, not trying to help.
Mhm.
But oh, that's crazy. It's crazy that you have the you know what I'm saying? You got enough of the wherewithal to record it.
Mhm.
And the camera ain't shaky. You know
And,
what I'm saying?
and you cheering more than likely, depending on what it is. You know,
So
for a while, I really really felt that people should be charged for that. They should be charged for it, and especially if they're uh, egging it on or whatever, or I mean, if you're just watching it or
yeah, now
whatever.
people can get charged for that. I think it's a small misdemeanor, but you can if you egging it on,
Mm.
it's small misdemeanor, especially if you don't know the person, right? If you know the person, then they can link you to that suspect's actual charges somehow. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, take take for instance, man. You know, all of the physical confrontations you see on subways and stuff, man. You know, people just don't understand how volatile that situation actually
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
You got one person that's a guaranteed oppressor. Aggressor. Excuse me. Coming to somebody, man, who they might be they might be an aggressor also. They might be an innocent or whatever. But you never know what somebody's reaction is going to be.
Yeah.
What if somebody decides to start you know shooting up the place?
Hmm.
People are fearful like that. Don't nobody want to get beat up and handled and then have it recorded.
Yeah.
The worst moment I done experienced in the last doggone 10 years is viral. My bad day is viral.
Yeah. I think what comes to mind is, I guess, a year or so ago, maybe two, on the New York subway, where the cat got on there. He's suffering mental issues, but he used to get on there and bully passengers. You know,
Mhm.
So I think a couple of them he might have struck. I'm not sure. I'm not. I just understand the gist of it. And then there's this military dude, ex-military or current no, ex-military guy, wasn't taking it from him. He started fighting him.
Mhm.
Then he caught him in the chokehold, right? And people was cheering him on, but I think it was PTSD or whatever alphabet it is. He wouldn't stop choking him,
Mhm.
and nobody tried to stop him from killing this guy. Hey, hey, thank you for saving us, but why are you committing a homicide?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he was being fed. He was being fed
Yeah.
the fervor of the crowd.
Then he was, I believe he was a veteran too, so he had that embedded in him too, where you have to kill to survive.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But I'm sure he didn't want to choke the guy to death, but am I sure? You know what I mean? You never know unless you're there. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying?
I
But
mean,
people watch it, people recording it. You know, like what's my man name? Um, no, but you know what? I'm not. I'll digress from that. To be honest with you, but let's go to our YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Build our numbers up. You see that little burst of that little 8-minute burst of what we were just talking about. That's the kind of conversation we always have on here. You know, we try to we pick. Sometimes we pick things out of the daily headline. Sometimes we pluck things out of our own personal life, or friend's life, or somebody who gives us permission to share. You know what I mean? But on the heading of today's episode, Jaquari, I paraphrasing because I can't remember. Do you care about your health? That was the heading. And I think a lot of that had to do with recently I had a health situation that sobered me on how much living I've done. Whole lot of living. It humbled me and let me know that I have we all have a time limit. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Mortality is a real thing with us. So, and it's been since been resolved. But the thing about it is, it changed my way of thinking about things. And one thing that it did for me, health wise, is I knew I had to double down on what I always do anyway. I started my health journey, really started my health journey, was when I looked at my youngest son, and he was probably in the seventh grade. And I knew I wanted to be around for his children. So I started slowly, walking 3 to 4 times a week, 3 miles. You know what I mean? There's just a nice, healthy pace to keep everything greased. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, Going into the gym, I don't lift heavy anymore. I lift a lot of reps. Just to keep everything in shape. My hands is not as fast anymore, but once my hands get there, it's going to impact things. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? But that being said, how much do you pay attention to your health? And when I'm speaking from your age and my age, how much do you pay attention to your health?
Uh, Not enough to be preemptive, but when something when something ain't right, I know.
Okay.
Which is entirely, I believe, especially the older I get, man, it's entirely a wrong way to do it. It's always been the wrong way to do it. Your health should definitely be a priority. It should be as important as the money you make, more important than the money you make. It should be, yeah, a lot of people would say your top priority. But, yeah, you asked me if I care about my health. Shit. I love the things that make me feel good, and
You
I,
need that nicotine.
I need a I need a reason to give them up. But no, I mean, if you can discipline yourself, like in that way, man, to not let things or substances, affect your health actively. If you can pursue that actively, man, you live a long and fruitful life.
Hmm.
Our health issues come, they're either natural or they come from uh, uh, something that we expose ourselves to outside of moderation. You know.
Gotcha. But you know what's so funny about that is that's the first thing we go to when we talk about health. Like when the question crossed my mind, I thought about I don't smoke, but I thought about my alcohol consumption.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about what kind of food, being a type 2 diabetic, what type of food that I'm eating that's contributing to that disease. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute. That's very well true that are our vices take a is a is a part of our health, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, when you tell me what you think, to me, I think our vices is a small part because our vice doesn't consume the whole part of our day, unless our vice is heroin, crack, you know what I mean, uh, whatever hard drugs that immediately have you hooked and you got to do every day. What else during our day, and have me thinking about, well, what else in our day that contributes to our poor health and also contribute to our good health? Can you think of anything?
Uh, Environment, yeah. Freaking the actual environment itself. I mean, you think about all the smoke that we had that you know that's put out by friggin' car exhausts and factories and such, man. And I was reading somewhere that we all have like you know millions of particles of plastics, plastic in our in our systems or whatever. And yeah. But it also made me, your question also made me think about why didn't You know, like our forefathers. Why did they die? You know, young. You know, you go back 100 years. What was the life expectancy 100 years ago? You know, I seriously doubt it was as long as it is. You know, as we're expected to live. They didn't have to put up with all the shit that we do. You know, I mean, they didn't. They couldn't get reefer in the mail. You know, if they wanted it, they had to go out and grow it. Maybe that's what kept them healthy. The work it took for them to enjoy their vices. You
Yeah.
know, they had to make their own liquor. They had to, you know, manufacture all their entertainment. But now you can just go down to the corner store and pick it out. So why are we supposedly living longer than those people did?
I mean, I can tell you, to be honest with you, it's only those short lifespans back in the day was only in industrialized, heavily populated areas, right? So to me, what we started doing was what they started doing, I should say, was putting up, building better water filters, better housing, better things to fight, better refrigeration for the food. You know what I mean? Because you got to think about old age in this country. Old age was in your 40s and 50s. Now you got to take into consideration that you had the warring natives, you know, and then you got the Europeans fighting each other, bringing the fight over here from Europe, you know, those different things, and then trying to live in the elements and trying to do all these different things and taking risk and do all these different things, right? But then you look at the African continent where people was living well into their 90s and hundreds. You know what I'm saying? Even in places like isolated places in Russia, they're living in the 90s and hundreds. China, the same thing. But then you get closer to the heavily populated places in China, Russia, and in Africa, it lessens. You know what I mean? Because you got different reasons why. You know, civil war, you know, in China and Russia and in the African continent, um, Europe, you know, these different things. Then there's disease because you know they had to really the Moors had to teach Europeans how to actually take care of themselves, and it still didn't catch on for another 500 years. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be funny, but that's what it is. Like the Moors came to Spain and Portugal in that region after the Black Plague. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it, oh, they blaming the rats. No, maybe the rats carried it from them nasty ass ships that was going from port to port, but it was the people and the way they were living, where they had the toilet buckets where they would just throw into the damn street, and of course it's gonna go into your water supply. Never thought about that. They never thought about that. But then you go in more the peasants out into the country, they were healthier because they didn't have to live like that. But then they was dying because the lords, you know, I'm speaking of lords as far as Europe is concerned. The lords was coming in and taking all their shit, you know, and then they had to live off an eighth of what they was actually producing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm saying that to say, just give different examples of why they could have been living less lives. But you gotta think about it. We've seen in the history books where, and I'm talking about the truthful history books where other civilizations who I say we because I'm in this country, but who Europeans who felt they conquered are living long lives and honoring their parents. Parents coming to live with them. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's funny, man. you know, not getting off on a tangent, but it's when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute. You're right. We are living longer, but the reason why we're living longer is because, and tell me what you think about this, is because we learned how to follow the rules. I mean, and I'm being a little facetious about it, but
Exactly what do you mean follow rules?
our water company had to filter our water. You know what I'm saying? The food that we eat, they have to come to a certain. It may not be the standard that's established that it should be, but it's no, it's enough standard that it's not killing us.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Now we got so many things, so many preservatives where you and I can remember how food actually tasted. The
Yeah,
same food that we eat every day has a different taste
yes.
from when we was kids. Because I think when we was kids, it was more natural food. It was, but then they put things in like our chicken. Everybody always say black people love chicken. No, America loves chickens. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
then once somebody figured out, and it came from a government lab, how you can you stick steroids in those chickens where they can't even walk, and their feathers turn white. But them drumsticks is like this, looking like turkey drumsticks. You know what I'm saying? Now, folks pinching their dollars. Guess what they doing? Shit, give
Buying
me that. You know what I'm saying?
buying a cheap chicken and filling up them deep freezers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. But now you mentioned it though, man. You know, I'm saying I've been saying for a while, man. Milk chocolate, don't taste the same to me no more.
But
It tastes artificial. I mean, it is artificial as it already is.
yeah, yeah.
You know, it just it ain't right.
I don't think they care anymore because they used to hide it.
Mm.
They used to hide that chocolate is a mixture of so many different things with a sprinkle of cocoa. Milk
Mm.
chocolate is what it is. This is why, and I learned this in my maybe early 30s watching the Discovery Channel, right?
Mm.
That Europeans Europeans get repulsed, and South Americans and Africans get repulsed by eating milk chocolate.
Mm.
They say it's horrible, and we like what? You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
then and then when we eat something with real cocoa, real chocolate, it's bitter.
Cacao.
Yeah,
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 I
it's
can't
bitter. You
I
know.
can't stand that shit, man.
But look, I'm gonna tell you, I developed a taste for it.
Really?
Dark chocolate, yeah, I developed a taste for dark chocolate because I was always a milk chocolate, a candy bar, milk chocolate type of dude, right? Then when I found this out, and being a diabetic, knowing that a dark chocolate is not good for diabetics, but it won't hurt diabetics. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm.
I bit in my first piece of dark chocolate where it was like 70%
Yeah.
because they sell the different percentages in all the drugstores, the dark chocolate.
Mm.
And I've been there and said, man, what the fuck? What, hold on. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? This ain't my chocolate.
I done paid $7 for this bullshit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it is funny how things are, I've noticed a lot of things, a lot of food, the taste has changed. I'm gonna tell you the only thing that stay, and maybe it's because it's the hygiene of the animal, but the only thing that hasn't changed is pork.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You,
mean,
you know what I'm saying?
if
Like
something if something is already bad, how much worse can it actually get? I mean,
exactly,
it,
exactly.
and that's you know pigs gonna start pulling pistols and shooting. You can't get no worse for the pig.
No.
I mean, but that's and I'm not gonna say that pigs get a bad rep because they nasty ass animals, but chickens is nasty.
Chickens are nasty
Shit.
and they stink. chicken plants, man. You know, people they got chicken plants around here, and the people who live around them,
Mm,
they said certain parts of the day, man, you can't go outside.
yeah.
You know, when that wind shift, you know what I'm saying? But chicken is good, man. But I think what's strange is I've had some free range chicken not too long ago, and that really confirmed, like, man, we eating some bullshit. I'm not saying the free range was delicious, right? Because you gotta think about it. You've been used to a certain taste this whole time, just like milk chocolate and
Hmm.
regular chocolate. You've been used to a certain taste, so it's gonna be nasty to you, you know. But then that free range was fried, right? But then I had some of the free range and chicken and dumplings. I was like, mm! you know, it was delicious. But that's why I've always respected farmers and people who knew how to grow vegetables and do all these different, being self sufficient with it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, technology has made us useless, man. Absolutely useless in some regard. I mean, you you couldn't take us back 100 years and expect us to thrive.
No,
Not, you know.
I tell you well, you know what? We could, we could because it's a necessity to survive. You know what I'm saying? So you're getting used to certain things, right? Um, what I think though is what these companies are getting away with and putting in this food, it may shorten our lifespan. You know what I'm saying? And I say may, I don't have no proof, and I'm not on it like that. I'm just saying, you ever take the time, like, I don't eat canned vegetables anymore, man. I read the size, bro, and I was like, whoa. And I think frozen vegetables might not be far away from it, but at least I can see that it's frozen, and then and it's not lingering in any juices or anything like that. You feel me? I don't know if they stuck a needle in them joints, man, and say, "Hey, freeze these up, hurry up." You know what I mean?
Something's gonna be or something like canned fruit for canned vegetables and fruits and everything. That's if it's gonna be like genetically modified or whatever. Then when I open it up and pour it into the bowl, I don't want to see no dark you know carrots that was supposed to be like cut from that motherfucker. I don't want to see. Yeah, I don't want to see no blemishes whatsoever.
Yeah,
And I'm like, why y'all put this shit in the can? If you can cut it as precisely as that shit comes, do better with your maintenance.
yeah, yeah.
And we talk about, man, people who have, like, take the Waltons, like the people who like own Walmart and shit. You know, as convenient as Walmarts have become to everybody, we demonize those people because they're providing everyday comforts that we could have provided, like 100 years ago. We provided for ourselves.
Yeah.
They've got everything there. You don't have to know you don't have to know how to germinate seeds or whatever, because I can go to Walmart and buy the finished product. The first person who got milk delivered to their doorstep back in the eons ago or whatever, that started our downfall as a species.
Yeah, nah, man. Come on now, you getting
No,
extreme.
no, it's not an extreme at all. It's not an extreme at all. You take a man who has grown up milking cows, going out hunting, starting a fire every day, no matter what the conditions. You take him away from that environment, Columbia, Mississippi, Blue Springs, Mississippi, and move him to Detroit. How much of that knowledge has he passed on to his three sons? You know how to build a fire from scratch. Can
I
you go out
mean,
and can you go out and find game to hunt? Pop knew how to do that.
I
He
know
didn't.
that.
He
I get
didn't teach us how to do that.
I get that. I think, and I agree with you, but I also want to add into the simple fact the work ethic was taught though. So if you have the work ethic, you can learn how to hunt game. You can learn how to do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the foundation of it.
God bless the work ethic, man. God bless it. But 100 years ago, the work ethic was meant to be guided to a specific thing, and it wasn't to build somebody else's coffers. It would have been to sustain our own households. But the work ethic now, I mean, the work we put into ventures now, I mean, we don't build actual things from our own steam. What we do is we try to make money so we can pay somebody else to build our shit.
You know what I mean? It's a give and take to the situation because if service is provided, if service is provided, so you can continue to work and won't have to take time away from work, then there's a give and take. You know what I'm saying? See,
Yeah, that's the corner we painted ourselves into, though, man.
yeah, but you gotta think about it. I look at Lagos and the different marketplaces in Ghana and the different places in the different countries in Africa, right? They are advanced, but they're not advanced. They stay closer to tradition. They're selling fruits and vegetables in those places too. You know what I mean? So somebody's meant to do it. Now to put it on a mass scale, I think your point is better served. But then if you got 300 million people here, you can't individualize it at all.
But even that, though, I mean, people talk about, you think about as much space as there is in America, there are places that are overpopulated.
Which
Why?
has always took me out.
Yeah,
This is
why?
worldwide, man. This is worldwide. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about why that is. Eventually, like all our parks or whatever, national, freaking Jellystone and goddamn, you know what I mean? But it's gonna be people there, man. There's gonna be people there. That's what I
But
think.
but but okay.
I mean,
Understanding it,
it's
understanding your point.
as far as
But
as far as expansion goes, people are going to eventually, lose respect for those natural wonders and start moving in. It's always been people in those living in
so
those
is it
places.
is it is it that people don't want them? Okay, I understand national parks, but they say that's Teddy Roosevelt. You know what I'm saying? So that's sort of recent, right?
Mhm.
Is it places overpopulated is because people want to be around people and they think their lives would be easier around people. You see what I'm saying? Now that goes to your point where these folks, and I'm thinking about in history wise, these folks lost the skill to forage and hunt and all these different things. So they did the easiest thing. You know what I mean?
If you take into account, man, we used to have characters like mountain men. Now, if you consider how how much that paradigm has shifted. It used to be honor and turning 15, 16 years old and striking out on your own and going up to the mountains and creating your own shit. Used to be honoring that. Now, we call people who want to enjoy their own company. We call them loners. We call them hermits. We question their social skills or whatever. But that used to be what you wanted. You wanted space. You wanted to be out. You wanted to be able to stand on your porch and shoot your rifle in any direction and not hit anybody. People. I know people who grew up in cities, man, who absolutely detest the distance between neighbors. Yeah, I mean,
I don't like. Listen. I love the beauty of the countryside and all
Mhm.
those things. Now I don't want to be like crowded, but I need to be in a populated area. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If, I
But
mean, if that's the point you was trying to make.
yeah, I mean, but, see, but my point is, you ain't supposed to need nobody else. Man, a man is supposed to establish your own hunting tracks, your own watering hole. You're supposed to know how to go out and till your own land.
And I believe that to a point, yeah. But see, individuals, man, individuals and individuality, whether it's right or wrong, individuals and individuality does not work well with growth.
Hmm.
It doesn't work well. And what I mean is, I said something earlier where everyone, at least the majority of folks, have to believe what's propagated. Like they have to believe that we should not kick in somebody's door and steal their goods. You see what I'm saying? They have to believe that the police are there to help them. They have to believe that.
I mean, but that's for some communities, man. Has that ever been the case?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you have the majority of the policing entity that has that intention, but you have the ones who get those jobs, man, to monitor, to maintain, to manage.
Yeah, I mean, this is true. I mean, a lot of times in the neighborhoods with those one or two streets that's lawless because of drugs. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what when you go into a neighborhood and you have that one street or that one corner, there's always got every form of criminality going. It is linked to drugs. So policemen, and I can say this personally, policemen are there because they call it the two things: community policing and policing. Right? Community policing used to happen naturally, but these in the older days. But then those men and women were also there to police the neighborhood, to keep it under control to the best of their ability, them and their partners. And community policing is a very new thing within the last 30, 40 years because in a lot of black neighborhoods, policemen were put there to keep the riffraff, what they perceive the riffraff in. So how do you do that? You do it with a heavy hand, especially when you don't have nothing in common with them. And I'm speaking from a general point of view. You don't have nothing in common with them. So if you bash somebody's head in and you're able to write it up, he don't live in your neighborhood.
Mhm.
You going across town. The likelihood of you seeing him or any of his family is very low. And I think that was done purposely. Instead of like, yo, put like in black neighborhoods, put officers in there who can relate. See,
But that was
but go ahead.
that. I don't. I mean, I don't think that was ever. I don't think that was ever the intention. I mean, it's a byproduct. It's a positive byproduct of having the police. But I'm gonna say a name and tell me, if it rings a bell. Wyatt Earp.
Okay.
Wyatt Earp. What was his job?
His main job was a gambler. See, that's my
What? What?
point though.
What?
Go ahead.
Yeah. And you reinforced my point. But what was his job? He was a sheriff.
Yeah, yeah,
Him and his brothers were sheriffs, right?
yeah.
But as you
Well,
said,
no, there was peace officers.
I want hamburger cheeseburger.
No, not really.
But
But go ahead.
yeah, they were responsible for the law in their order in their area.
On that street.
Well, but my point being, Keith, they were responsible for the law, but they were also gamblers, pimps, uh, 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 liquor runners. Okay, so yeah, they kept the peace so they could run their shit, so they could advance their criminal undertakings. The same damn thing is happening.
Well, you gotta think about it. Well, no, a couple of minutes ago I said what street were they policing because that's what happened in New York with the policemen, the police department. They were Irishmen, right? The first, and that was like a family business for Irishmen coming from Ireland, right? They policed two neighborhoods. The first was the affluent neighborhood where there's no crime, but it gave you the illusion of crime. So if somebody who was impoverished just so happened to walk on the wrong street, they were going to be harassed by them. Then there was, and then there was put in the slum areas to keep those people in those areas. This never changed because then it went from policing themselves to policing minorities, keeping those minorities in, keeping them in. And people hearing this might think that is a harsh way of putting things, but you have to think about where were there the most officers, and they're there for a reason. People say, "Oh, because of crime." Yeah, because of crime, yes. But the thing about it is, you got to put a band-aid on it. You know what I mean? Look, American policing comes down to what individual that you put in that role. So if you know the more common one, the one who want to change the world and want to save people, and borderline delusional, right? Because crime happens every day, and sometimes it's repeat, sometimes it's a brand new one, but it happens every day, and if you don't have the right disposition, it will burn you out. And then you have the ones who are hateful people. So they look to brutalize any and everyone. And when it comes to black people, even more because everybody has a disdain for black folks for whatever fucking reason, which has always baffled me, man. But then somebody told me, well, you look, black folks might in these days might represent the lost tribe of Judah. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to believe that, that's fine, whatever. But I've always, and I'm not talking about I want a motherfucker to like me. That's not why I'm saying this. I've just always been confused on the simple fact that we, as a community, just want to live and we go to work, we do all these different things, or we want to work, we want this, but some things economically happen to us where we are 2 or 3 steps behind. So it always took me out when I run into quote unquote sympathetic white people and they ask me questions like, well, Keith, they got the opportunity. Me and my family, we dug ourselves up from the mud and we did this. Why can't they? And you know what? I don't want to get into the black white thing, but damn, it's obvious. Who hired your family in whatever business they're doing? It's nepotism and it's skinism. You know what I'm saying?
Until you've actually had to come up with a strategy on how to enter a room and actively put people at ease, I don't think you've lived.
That's real.
I don't think
Great
you.
point.
I don't think you've lived.
Great point. And that's the funny thing with you and I being over 6'8", right? We've had, and I made the choice not to do it, but we've had to do those same things you just mentioned.
I've been doing it all my life because I was Buster Elementary School, so I've always had to go and check temperatures.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get it. And I think, I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not that the fact that I was this radical presence and all the time, but yeah, I pushed back a lot, especially when I knew I was in the right. Did it benefit me? It benefited my character and my self worth. But when it came to promotions and things like that,
Yeah,
no,
hell,
no,
self-esteem.
no, no. Let me put that back. See, I'm not gonna put all the blame on that because I put, if I want something, I know I got to figure out a way. Even if I know something's against me, I got to figure out a way of getting it.
Hmm.
So I leave that the sole responsibility for my well-being is always going to be me. But I'm
Hmm.
speaking in general terms when it comes to you have a lot of things you have to overcome. Our parents used to, to a child, you know, Generation X, baby boomer, to a child, our parents said we had to be 2 times better than anyone in the workplace. That was hammered into our system. While we developed that kind of work ethic, it was hammered into our system. But then when somebody inadvertently said, "Oh, we made it," that kind of stuff is over with. It was premature because it may not be physical confrontation or verbal confrontation, right? What it became was backdoor inside the room. Oh, we're not hiring him. But why don't you want to hire him? Isn't this obvious? You know what I mean? And don't have a reason. Just, those are the good go-to phrases of things. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But see, I've never been the type of person that said, well, the white man is, see, that I think that is a cop out in a sense where I know it to be true, but it should not stop you for who you are.
It shouldn't, man. It shouldn't,
That's
man.
all.
But my whole entire life, and it's not an exaggeration, man. I've always been put in a position by black and white people. I've always been told, man, that I couldn't do the things that other kids could do. I couldn't play rough with other kids, and they were allowed to do and say anything that they wanted to me, black or white, didn't matter. I was larger than the other kids or whatever, so they had carte blanche to jump on my back at recess and kick me in the balls and shit.
Mm,
And anything that I did to them was retaliation. And Jabari, you have to be more careful because you're bigger.
it's
And
not
and,
going to happen.
and well, I got a lump on my head too. So what am I supposed to do? Well, you're tough.
Yeah, yeah.
So
See
so
that?
so I've always had to be a caretaker of other people's physical and mental.
I,
So
yeah.
at some point in my life, man, I and it happened young. But at some point in my life, man, I became bitter and jaded and goddamn burned out. And I'm just tired because
I mean, it's understandable.
I'll say what's on my mind. And sometimes what's on my mind is fucked up. And a lot of those people who I take care of, when they hear me say these things, they're taken way aback.
Mm,
You know, I mean, yeah, I might not verbalize it, but sometimes I let a motherfucker know. You need to tiptoe around me, bro. Because
Yeah.
I'm doing a whole lot to keep you safe from me. You know, and I'm not some fucking psychopath. I'm not deranged in any way. I have the same sentiment of self protection and hell entitlement as everybody else do. But I got a hell of a hold on mine. There's many cases, man. I could have created goddamn chaos, you know, but it didn't happen, and I should have created chaos.
I think yours and my journey is similar, not the same, but similar because I had a line that I drew because I was just like you as far as look, let me preserve people's uncomfortable ease around me, like being a little bit more patient, a little bit more of this. But I served myself and like I'm drawing that line here, and I'm not going to change that line. Now it wasn't a long line because I don't believe in masochism. I don't. I really don't. But see, the thing about me is my personality is order. So if you if I can overlook something, a slight in the beginning, for the benefit of order, I'm gonna overlook it.
Yeah,
But when I taught myself how to draw the line, and then what I also did was learn how to speak that language. Because my go-to is to curse you the hell out with my fist balled up, daring you to do something.
it's everybody's go-to though.
No,
Every
it's not. No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it is. It is.
No, people's go-to is to sit there and take the shit because they feel they need to take it.
That's not everybody's natural inclinations though.
I think so. I
I
think
mean,
so.
because
All right, it's not natural. I agree, but they're taught to be that way. They're conditioned to be that way.
but why is it more acceptable for other people to pursue their wants, but when somebody of my stature does it, it's considered bullying.
But see, that's the whole point, though. Isn't what they're pursuing bullying also? They just don't give a fuck.
I just
That's
told
the conclusion I came to. That these people,
I
it's
just
not that these people think.
I just told you my whole life, man. I've been judged on different standards. That's the truth, and
And
you have.
now think about it. Every time that you, one moment that if you ask me something about that, what did I do to you? Did I say take that shit? Or yo, man, you should do this. Fuck
Yeah, it's
that.
nobody.
But
Yeah, nobody about it, man. I lived through it, and I had to figure out how to navigate
no,
that shit.
no, no. You and I, we talked about it as you was growing up. You could come to me and you would tell me certain things, and you and I would talk about it. Now the majority of stuff because you're 8 years younger than me. You had when you was going through school, you had to go by your, you
I
had to
had to
do it
figure it out on my
on
own.
your own. Yeah,
So the talks that I had with people, man, yeah, I was in a space to where, yeah, I hear you, but I'm living this shit, and
man. Look. Let me just say this. I understand. So I'm not disagreeing with you. Not doing anything. And it's good the fact that you're opening up about it because I'm an open book when comes to my happiness, my hostility, my wants, my needs, everything. I'm an open book. But some things I keep to my breast. You know what I'm saying? The more important things. The one thing that I've understood is if you don't verbally try to tell a man or a woman you are fucking out of line, you're going to end up doing something to them because you're building it up, you're pinning it up. This is not talking about you. This is time speaking about my own personal experience. So having to go through those things and then going back, because God blessed me with a fucking conscience. Because when I win, I tell myself, well, damn, maybe I could have approached that differently. You see what I'm saying? So what I said to you earlier, that people are fucking selfish when they want what they want, but then they get upset because you wanted to, or you have a way, you're doing it the same way that they do. I said, I can't. I'm like, man, fuck that. That's some. It is funny how when you have these physical advantages, people, especially when they're being a dick prior to you reacting, people want to cry innocent.
Oh, and they'll appear to be innocent.
But
You know,
see, that's the thing. I
you
don't
know,
care what they appear
you
to
know how.
be.
No. You know how many of my friends, people who I was around all the time. If I knew their parents, in a lot of cases, their parents gave them permission to do harm to me if we ever got into it. I mean, real harm outside of a physical fight. You pick something up and hit him in the head. He too big and all this and all that. But ma'am, it's your son's a fucking asshole, and and I've saved him countless times. But you have the audacity to say that in front of me.
But
So
where
I
that dumb
put
shit.
y'all on the fuck y'all list. Fuck you.
You know where the fuck that came from. See me, I I knew how to X people out. You know what I mean? Because guess what? It always, if God bless you with life, it's always gonna circle back. Especially when you advance into a better life, you're gonna circle back to them people. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is, when it came to adults, I gave them the respect because our parents taught us to give them respect. As long as you don't put your fucking hands on me, say what the fuck you want to say. You know what I'm saying? I'm leaving, so I want to have to hear the bullshit no more. But as long as you don't put your hands on me, you can have your opinion. Then 10 years later, I always knew you was going. Now, if I'm petty, then you ain't do shit. You didn't think shit. Just because your child ain't shit right now, and you asking me to go try to save him, now all of a sudden I got this conversation. Now, the reason why I put it that way is I honestly believe you take what you can take. If it's any extra, you're doing yourself a disservice. You see what I'm saying? Like my friends' parents, they didn't think much of me growing up. You know what I'm saying? And I say that in a sense now, I ain't never heard them tell they kids that put they do some shit to me because of whatever. I ain't never heard that. That's
I
crazy.
I have.
But my thing is, I always had the option to get the fuck up and leave. You know,
No.
where you going? I'm going the fuck home. What the fuck do you mean? I don't live here. You know what I'm saying? But my point is, you don't get no reward at the end. That's why I say I draw the line. You know how you've met people who've taken shit, lead double lives. They take shit from people they don't have to take, but they feel they have to, right? And then they get around other folks, and those other folks are more kind to them, and they got better relationships. And these other folks have no idea you going through this dumb shit with this person, right? And you get to the point you wonder, why are you taking shit from this motherfucker? Being outside, man, how many times have you done that? Like a brother or a sister share some shit with you, and then you're like, him? You know what I'm saying? You take what? He did that? She did that? I said, well, what you do? You know what I'm saying? And when I was younger, I used to go confront them motherfuckers like, man, who the fuck do you think you are? Taking up the mantle for somebody that was my friend. Or if I didn't confront them, they knew that I did not like them. I'm not gonna give you no quarter, motherfucker. Fuck you. Cause I know you done some fucked up shit. Like some of my friends' fathers, I know they've done some messed up things to my friends and my friends' moms. But because, I was that guy, sports wise. You want to come up and shake my hand. He want to, hey, he. You want to, he. And I look at him. I give him respect because my father said, always respect the man if he ain't never did nothing to you. But deep down, he feels the energy from me. She felt the energy from me. You got to think about it. You verbalize it, right? But how many times you've met people who say to you, Keith don't like me, huh? You know what I'm saying? And I've never said nothing to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it ain't about that. I'm only gonna be, yeah, go ahead.
Being a person, man, who's constantly had to check temperatures, man, it's been a lot of situations where I'd be around somebody for a long period of time, and we might have sparse conversations here and there, deep conversations, because I don't just talk, just like small talk has never been an easy thing for me. So I mean, I don't I don't pursue substance in conversations. It just happens. But
Yeah.
it's been a couple of occasions where somebody might tell me, man, we been around each other for a long time. We talk, here and there, whatever. But I never knew, like you said, I didn't think you liked me because, because I didn't chase you.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I mean, rarely do I does I don't like a person. Rarely does that ever factor in. I don't pursue people.
I get it.
I
I get it.
don't because I mean and it's become it's always been a defense mechanism. Because trying to figure out what box I fit into in this person's life, man, is exhausting. I just don't care to do it anymore.
Because they can't really articulate, especially when they're young, they can't articulate what the fuck they want. A lot of times when it comes to friends, girlfriends and shit like that, you momentarily, you're momentary. As much as you want to say to yourself, yo, I want to be with you for life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, that's a momentary. If you sat down, and I did that in college. If you sat down, cause you was with mom when I bought that engagement ring my sophomore year. You remember that? That came up for a Christmas tournament, right?
Mhm.
And mom had to give me a little bit more money for it. And my mom, our mom was like, yo, are you sure you want this? You sure you want to do this, Key? Yeah, ma, I do. I do. I want to spend my life with her. And them words coming out of my mouth, I didn't even believe them at the time. But it is what it is. You know how you want to be that grandiose in college, you meet that person. But see, the point is, it's not that I made the wrong choice. The point is, I was fucking 19 years old, didn't know shit, didn't barely knew how to communicate my wants. You feel what I'm saying? It
Mhm.
wasn't because I was whipped. It wasn't because of anything other than the simple fact that I talked myself into something that I knew I wasn't ready for.
It was the permanence, man. I mean, we no nobody pursues temporary shit, good shit, no, temporary good shit.
All right.
When we when we
I
think
agree with that. I agree with that now.
yeah, when it's good, we want it forever
Look,
because
look, when you
that's what
wanted to be when you wanted to be a hoe, you that's all temporary. But go ahead.
yeah. I mean like we, when we grow up, we're taught these standards of what it takes to be a good man and have a good life, and none of those shits is temporary. They're all permanent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about if I would have met my wife in my in my 20s or whatever. I don't. Well, my young 20s. I was in my 20s or whatever, but in my teens or whatever. I I don't know if we would have made it. People.
Not when you're that young, no sir.
Yeah, as much. I mean, but that's the dream. How many people do you know? I know a lot of people that's been together since high school.
I think our generation was the last of that. I mean, think about it. I don't know anybody younger than you have been with the person, I mean, they're scattered, but been with
Hmm.
the person that they was with in high school.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If they are, what they did was they broke up and went out there and they came back, if it happened. But I'm talking about the majority of, because you got to think about with our parents, the world, the world was where they met. That was the world, right? I used to tell my son, no, our dad told him, look, your son is your son. Oh, damn. Our dad used to tell him, son, your life is bigger than this. It's bigger. And I understand that now, what that means, because when he met our mother, he came up from Mississippi, so he was in his gigantic life.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Running up and down Uncle Wood, Uncle Will's them acreage, you know, grabbing trees and ripping them out the ground and shit. You know what I'm saying? That old Mississippi strength shit. But
Hmm.
the point I'm making is when he met Mom in Michigan, coming to visit cousins, because he was living in Detroit, Mom was in Ypsilanti. That was the extent of his world.
Hmm.
Now, you see how small that was? Because the next thing you know, it's time for him to get a job. You know what I'm saying? Time for Mom to get a job. It's time for them to get married. You see what I'm saying? It's all this stuff. Now their life is, and this happened everywhere. The majority of the time, this how it happened. But as our generations and after us, it became less and less. Where the first person you fell in love with, that's who you stayed with. So what I had to do, I had to alter it with my son. I said, Keith, listen. I said, do yourself a favor. I said, you can make any choice you want to make. This is when he was going to high school. Maybe it's ninth grade year. I said, son, just date here. If you have to have a girlfriend, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying don't have one, but date different personalities so you know what meshes with you. But but I also left it open like, but if you find someone that and she sees you the same way, try to do something with it. And I said, especially if you go to college, and this was some personal thing for me. I said, college is meeting people from everywhere. I said, do not get engaged in college. And it wasn't and it wasn't because I had some kind of
Trump.
animosity toward that
Hmm.
trauma. No. Because I was young. I was 19, filled with a lot of mistakes. You feel what I'm saying? And you should not play no games like that with yourself. Even though you're not doing it on purpose, you're kind of playing a game with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because the reason why you're playing the game is because I'm hoping for the best.
Hmm.
Here's the ring. I'm hoping for the best. Good person that just the the woman was a good person, great personality. You met her, the whole nine, right? But no, no. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I'm glad I was the type of guy who liked to do self-evaluation. Then I was able to see, hey, you are not mentally ready for this. And at the same time, we articulated that together. You feel me? So it's all that, and I know it kind of branched off from for what's going on, but I think the whole overall theme of this last discussion of ours is you got to be able to have talk up for yourself, have self expression, man. It's key because I would rather some people hate me but know where I'm coming from than love me and don't have a clue who I am. You know what I'm saying? I'll even split it down the middle, but I'm like this. No, you need to know me. You know what I'm saying?
It's very hard for me to have a good feeling about where I stand with people. It's very hard.
Gotcha.
That's why the people who know me, you know, they understand the extremes that I'll go to, and when I'm dealing with you, from what you see from the outside, and then there's a turn, people are shocked. I'm like, wow, really?
Look, you see, I laugh when I see that dark side of you. I'm like, look at you. Man, he mad as he mean as shit, man. And look, I've been hiding it well, but now it just surfaces.
I mean, I don't hide it though. I don't hide it. There's times when it needs to exist on the surface.
Yeah,
It's always there,
yeah,
but there's I mean, yeah. If I have a point to make, oftentimes they're extreme, because in my mind, I've given you every opportunity, man,
yeah,
to save face in this situation.
yeah,
You know, sometimes to my detriment. Yeah, I back off. But if you still pushing forward, then hey, all bets are off.
yeah.
If I gotta look myself in the mirror, man, for when I was a kid, I really didn't like who I saw because of my because of the perception that I got from outside sources.
Yeah.
Looking inward and finding strength inward. That's pretty much a recent thing for me.
I'll tell you my favorite phrase that saved me, Jaquan, because I say it to you all the time. I wanted to be a part of the group. I wanted to be like everyone else. I wanted to be in the cliques, right? But the one phrase that saved me, and this what this phrase did was it gave me a moment to evaluate what I want from that group, from that individual, from that situation. That phrase is fuck y'all. Fuck y'all. Saying it in their faces and meaning it. Because what it did was immediately I felt bad because I have a conscience, right? But I was going to follow through. This is the reason why. This is your fuck you because of this. This is a fuck you because of that. This is your fuck you because I put thought into it before that fuck y'all came out. Now I'm free. You feel me? I'm free. Not to be a dickhead. Not free to be a dickhead. No, free to have my own individuality. free to be nice when I want to be nice, free to be a dick when I want to be one. But really, the majority of the time, I want to keep peace and I want to be nice. But fuck y'all has saved my mentality, has saved my well-being, has saved my emotional shit.
You know, you use the word peace, man. I'm gonna tell you something. I've come to realize, man, that as much as we pursue it, as much as the construct is uh, something that everybody wants, it's not a constant thing, man. Peace. I mean, it's never been a constant thing. Protecting your peace. There's no way. There's no way for you to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way for you to protect your peace.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be you have to be in some sort of confrontation.
Yeah.
That's where the growth is.
Yeah.
That's where the growth lives. You know what I mean? Yeah. Do is it ideal for me to be in a Zen state at all times, man, and just exude fucking affable goodness all the time? I mean, yeah. I mean, who don't want that? But the fact is, as soon as you break the threshold on your door, there's a possibility this shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And you're either gonna freeze or you're gonna thrive. It comes down to those two things. You're either gonna freeze or you're gonna thrive. And a lot of times it's not just boiled down to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, do everything you can to protect your peace, but understand that if you don't act, you won't attain anything.
Yeah.
You'll never you got to know who you are, man. You got to know how you gonna perform in pressure situations, man. The first time something happens, the first time you get punched in the face, yeah, you're gonna panic, and you're gonna have a thousand fucking questions going through your why this happened to me and so such and such. But what you gonna do the second time? You gonna be in
Yeah.
that pain? Are you gonna be in that pain? Are you gonna take that shot to your esteem? Who's worth that?
I get it.
Who is worth that, man? Nobody's worth that. So I mean, do the work. Do the work, man. What you say, man? The heat is in the shovel, son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do the work, man. You got to do the work.
I tell you that to reinforce what you just said, which is a great point. Great, outstanding point. But just to add a little bit on that, I forget the man's name. He talked about peace. And he said that most people make the mistake in thinking that peace has always been absent of malice. And he said, I contend that there's never been peace without malice because they go alongside. He said people make the mistake in thinking that when you find peace, there's nothing there other than that peace. He said, to me, no, it's always, it's the yin and the yang,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. See, I mean, but I think a lot of people mix up the word peace and bliss. Bliss is you sitting there with your in your little yoga position with the birds fluttering around, and there's no threat whatsoever. That's
Mm-hmm.
bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's unattainable. Peace is a state of uh, 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 moving forward within the chaos
Yep.
because you're centered. You're centered within yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, look, Before we end any last words, I want you to go to Strong Perspective Podcast, like, share, and subscribe. Below my name, below the name Strong. If you feel inclined to help our channel, the donation for our channel is the Cash App below Strong. You know, not asking you to break the bank, but just encourage us by moving forward. If not, we still won't be here. But we definitely appreciate whatever you get, and we're going to thank you. But with that being said, any last words for the night, Ja'Cory?
Uh, it's been a good conversation, man. A lot of good points were made. I appreciate your time, brother, and I look forward to the next.
I agree totally. Great conversation. A lot of great points. You know, I always enjoy yours and Damon's perspective on things. And you bring out your look. It's what is that? Iron sharpen iron or something like that. I know there's a better way of phrasing that, but that's what I remember.
Mhm.
But I've always looked forward to these conversations every day. Um, Go like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Build our numbers up so we can become famous. No, but build our numbers up, man, because it'll put us in an algorithm so we can reach more people. Because I think I'm being authentic when I say that we promote conversation and opening it up about how you see things. Because sometimes you have to hear yourself talk about something to know that you really believe in that something. All right. Well, this is Strong Perspective Podcast. We'll be here next Friday. Damon, we'll see you there, brother.
Hey, Keith, watch this. Peace. It's there. You just got to work to find
No doubt. I like that, though.
it.
Have a good weekend, folks.